This is WWP Weekly Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to the Weekly Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Grant, and in a few moments, I'll be joined by a man who's going to final battle that is, this Sunday, live on pay-per-view from Terminal 5 in New York City, against his former stablemate in the decade, Roderick Strong. My guest at this time is also one half of the current PWX Tag Team Champions, along Corey Hollis and Country Jack. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Adam Page, to Weekly Wrestling Podcast. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to have you back on the show, man. It's been quite a while.
It's been a while, and I've done a lot of learning and a lot of changing since then. So I think maybe the interview you'll get out of me will be a lot different than last time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The first place I want to start off is we had Jimmy Jacobs on just a little while ago, and he talked about how far you've come in this past year. And it's kind of ironic because we haven't had you on for that year as well. So talk a little bit about the past year and what you've been up to.
Man, the past year has been a real eye-opener for me. I was taken under the wing of the decade, and, you know, that at first I was really apprehensive about the whole thing, but then I started to really have fun with it and started to grow and learn from that and to bring out some real emotion, and that's what this is about. It's about real emotion. You know, you can have a match and you can do a million moves, whatever you want to do, but if you don't feel it, it's not worth anything. And this whole decade thing has brought out a lot of real emotion from me and everybody. This whole thing is as real as it gets. Everybody's character, everybody's personality is real. I mean, I can't say that enough. I say that every time anybody asks me. But it's as real as it gets. Everything you've seen has been true. So this year has been great for me in that I could kind of find myself as a performer and, you know, in Ring of Honor as a company and really expand on that. And it's been great. Looking back, last year's final battle and then this year's final battle, man, you know, not to, like, brag too much or anything, but I feel like the difference in me is night and day, so.
Man, absolutely. I believe last year at Final Battle you took on Matt Hardy.
I did.
Yeah, last year come a long way, man. Talk a little bit about the opportunities you've had. Matt Hardy, Eddie Edwards before he left Ring of Honor, the Jimmy Jacobs Trial Series. Man, there's been so much going on for you.
Dude, yeah, all that stuff. Wrestling Matt Hardy was pretty surreal because when I got into wrestling, you know, like, I'm 23, so when I got into wrestling, like around the Invasion angle. That's when I started watching wrestling. So everything before that, like, you know, I didn't know any of that. And my first favorite wrestlers were Matt and Jeff Hardy. You know, because as like a 10 or 11-year-old, what they did was really cool. But because they were from a little small town, middle of nowhere in North Carolina, I'm from Virginia, so it's not really that far away. Their dad, like I read their biography or whatever, their dad was a tobacco farmer. My dad's a tobacco farmer. And, you know, they had the same kind of upbringing and interest in wrestling and, you know, they went out and did their own thing, and they made it happen. They didn't just like wrestling. They got into it. And I did that when I was a kid, too. So they were definitely my favorites, and they continued to be, I mean, through my life because I related to that. So getting to wrestle Matt Hardy at Final Battle was really awesome. It was surreal. I think if you watch the match, you can kind of tell it in my mannerisms and things like that I was nervous because it was a huge deal for me. You know what I mean? But, yeah, that was great. That match was great.
Honestly, I feel like you've taken the place on one of the big guys of the Carolinas in the past little while. Talk a little about the Carolinas because I feel like that's such an underrated division in professional wrestling.
Carolinas are a hotbed right now. They have been for the past few years, but I think now a lot of people are really getting the chance in the past couple of years to really step up and stand out. I mean, it's a great group of guys, and like I live in Virginia, but I'm maybe 10 minutes from the Carolina line, if that. So everything I do is in North Carolina because nobody does much in Virginia. And it's a great group of guys, and all of them, you know, I kind of started around, and to see all of my peers and my friends, you know, grow and become these great performers and get national and global recognition has been great. Guys like Andrew Everett and Trevor Lee, and the Bravados were finishing training the day I started training with the same group of people. Like, seeing them succeed has been great. Man, there's just a ton of stuff going on in Carolina. It's a really good place to be.
Absolutely, man. You've been put in the place that you were in Ring of Honor a while ago, and that's working with the newer guys in Ring of Honor, such as the guys that are coming like Luke Hawx and Aaron Solo, and the new addition of Will Ferreira to the roster as well. Talk a little bit about working with those guys and being put in those positions.
Yeah, it's weird when I'm getting to work with somebody who's trying to get to where I am. You know what I mean? I feel like it was just yesterday that I was them. And, you know, I was showing up in the locker room and like, God, I hope we get a match tonight, that kind of thing. And now I'm the guy they're getting the matches against. It's a really quick role reversal, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's what success is. You know, you look back and, oh man, I used to be there, and hopefully this time next year I can look back at where I am now and think, oh man, I used to be there. Those have been really good. A lot of great guys. Ring of Honor always brings in great guys, so I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them.
I 100% agree with you, man. Another thing I didn't bring up, one of your bigger moments this year, is working with Adam Pearce. He returned to Ring of Honor for a couple of shows. Talk a little bit about working with him.
Adam Pearce is phenomenal. I don't know. I hate to use the word underrated because I don't know. There's no sense of a rating for anybody, but I feel like if there's ever been anybody who really flew, who definitely, what am I trying to say? He's great. What I'm trying to say. And working with him is awesome. I'd wrestled him a couple times before in Wrestling Cares in California, and then the Decade, Roddy specifically, brought him in to wrestle Tadarius and I, and that was great, a great learning experience, and it was in Chicago, and I beat him, so it was great. He smacked me in the ear and busted my eardrum, though. I couldn't hear for like 3 weeks, and it's pretty bad. I had a hole like half the size of my eardrum. I was actually really lucky; it just healed up, so I'm really lucky to like keep my hearing.
Holy crap, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. It was nuts.
Speaking of that, injuries in professional wrestling, I feel like that's a hotbed of a topic. So talk a little bit about that and how you've been affected by them through your career.
You know, I've been really lucky. I've been wrestling like 6 years or so, and really only the past 3 or 4 have been, you know, like really busy. The first couple of years weren't much, but I've been really lucky. The only injuries I've had are, you know, a concussion here or there. None of those have ever been bad. You know, it's just been like a little loopy, but that's never been bad. I broke my nose once. Cedric Alexander kicked me in the face, broke my nose. I broke my thumb a couple of years ago, and that's really been the biggest thing. That's really it. I've been pretty lucky, to be honest.
That's great to hear, man. You were involved in Survival of the Fittest, the finals as well. Talk a little bit about being involved in such a big platform for Ring of Honor.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. Both those towns in Ohio were hot, man. That was fun. And that was my first Ring of Honor main event, being in Survival of the Fittest the second night. That was really cool. And it's really cool when you stop and soak it in and look around the ring and look at who's around you and realize, you know, man, like I'm in a good place right now. Big opportunity. Unfortunately didn't win. But a good time. It's a fun match. And again, it was my first main event, so that was a big milestone for me.
Definitely, man. I didn't even know that, so congratulations on that for sure.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, Ring of Honor has pretty much had their biggest year as well with the move to pay-per-view and the New Japan shows. Talk a little bit about the transition for Ring of Honor.
We've had an incredible year, and, you know, it's one of those things, you get somewhere, you always hope things go good, but you never realize how good they're going to go. And, like, you know, I said this one time, and I don't remember what show it was or what happened on the show or whatever, but I remember leaving thinking, like, man, that was the best Ring of Honor show I've been a part of so far. And then I thought, like, man, I think that about every show I'm on. So I think that's a true mark of what Ring of Honor's been able to do this year. You know, working relationships with New Japan, that was great. Or it has been great and will continue to be great, I hope. Moving to pay-per-view is awesome. We just picked up a ton of new TV markets. We come on TV where I live now. We used to didn't. We started coming on TV here like a month or two ago. We got a really good time slot here, and places all around here that we didn't come on TV before, we're on TV now. And that's been great, man. It's just been a huge year for Ring of Honor, and we're not slowing down at all. You know what I mean? It's only going to get better.
Definitely. Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure being added with the move to pay-per-view?
No. You know, I don't feel a sense of pressure. I think because there's such a camaraderie within our company that it's not a sense of pressure. It's just a sense of accomplishment. Everybody feels a part of a team, and it really feels like a huge accomplishment as a whole. It's not like, you know, oh, your company's doing the pay-per-view now you got to be really good or anything like that. No, it's a really huge sense of accomplishment from everybody collectively. You know what I mean? I think that is what breeds success, is when you have a collective sense of accomplishment, and that's what it feels like to me.
I definitely see that from an outside point of view. You talked about working with the Hardys and admiring the Hardys while you were a kid. You got to work with both the Hardys, actually, at Omega. Talk a little bit about that experience.
Man, you've done your research. Yeah, we did get to do that. I tagged with Corey Hollis down in Carolinas. We're country jacked, and we're doing a tag match for Omega. I don't remember the town we were in, but Omega always does great shows, and this is another one. The place was packed, and there's 1,000 or more people there. I don't even know. We had one match, and then the Hardys had their match against the Bravados, and some stuff went down with Rebby and Trevor Lee and all this kind of stuff, and we ran down there and got to tag with the Hardys. So there was a moment in the match, you know, I got isolated, the ring was getting beat up a bit, and escaped and dove towards my corner, and, like, I'll never forget how this felt, but I was diving towards my corner of the tag, and I was looking up at the hand I was about to tag. It was Jeff Hardy. And, man, it doesn't get any more surreal than that. Like, he was legitimately my favorite wrestler when I was a kid. So, man, that was just crazy. Crazy. And then, like, he went up for the swanton, and I was on the apron. I do that running shooting star off the apron. Well, you know, I was intending to hit that, and then he hits the swanton. And then, you know, he wins. But we ended up, like, looking at each other, and then, like, he jumped for the swanton, and I had jumped for the shooting star at the exact same time, and then he pinned, I think it was Trevor, he landed on. So, man, it's, like, really crazy and surreal. It's one of those things, like, I'll remember when I'm 40 or 50 or 60 or 80 or whatever. It's, like, something that was huge for me personally.
Talk about those bigger moments in professional wrestling, whether it be a match, whether it be a certain moment in time. Talk a little bit about those bigger moments.
Those bigger moments don't always come at what you would think would be the big moments. For example, you know, you've got a big show, your first pay-per-view, or, you know, whatever it is, and this match against Roddy is going to be a big moment. I'm not saying that at all. It is definitely going to be a big moment for me, one of the biggest, if not the biggest. But sometimes those big moments are in really small places or really small circumstances or in the details. I think the first time I'd ever gotten in the ring with one of the Hardys was in Northeast Wrestling, maybe Connecticut, something like that. I'd done a show up there and ended up in, like, a 6-man ladder match for the main event. And I'm standing in the ring, there's ladders everywhere, and then Matt Hardy's coming to the ring. So, you know, just to be able to stop thinking about the match and start thinking about just the moment I'm in, you know, that was pretty cool, pretty surreal, to realize I was in a ladder match with Matt Hardy. And, you know, sometimes it's just in the details. Little things like, you know, being able to wrestle in my hometown at my high school that I went to. I've wrestled there a couple of times. And, you know, those shows were nothing to write home about, nothing that'll go down in the history books. But for me, they were big moments. You know what I mean? It's something I'd always imagined doing. I got to do it.
Speaking of other big moments, you guys and Country Jack got to take on the Wolves, Davey Richards, and Eddie Edwards 2 days in a row. Talk a little bit about that at NWA Smoky Mountain.
Man, we beat the hell out of each other. We did, man. Those matches were brutal. And this was crazy. It was actually at I just did the thing with WrestleCade. It's not WrestleCade. Mid-Atlantic Legends.
Okay. It's CWF,
yeah,
right?
Big convention, and there are all these Mid-Atlantic Legends there, and they're all watching the show, and it's me and Corey Hollis versus the Wolves, and you can imagine how that action went. So I can't imagine what they thought. But the first night was crazy. The second night was really crazy. We did a Charlotte Street fight. I've been wanting to do this my whole career. I got to wrestle in blue jeans and my cowboy boots, tucked in, of course. So that was really cool. We brawled around the floor for forever. At one point, this is ridiculous. I just told somebody about this the other night. They thought it was the funniest thing in the world. At one point in the match, I think Davey Richards grabbed me by the legs, took me down and was going to, slingshot me, catapult me into the ring post on the floor. Well, instinctively, I start grabbing at people's legs who are sitting in the front row trying to hold on so he can't catapult me. And I grabbed this leg, and I realized it has this huge boot on it. And, this person's obviously, is injured or has some kind of condition or, whatever. It's I'm not supposed to grab that leg, but I had grabbed it, obviously, at this point. So I grabbed it, and I looked up, and I was like, oh, my God, it's Magnum TA. And I'm holding on to his huge boot. And I looked at it, and I, let go, and I had to look the most terrified I've ever looked in my life. He just looked down at me and kind of gave me a little nod, and then I went catapulting into the ring post. So that was really scary. That was crazy.
That kind of comes full circle with our bigger moments earlier on.
Yeah, and that was one of them. That was something I'll never forget. Just that I wish I could have seen my face because I know it was ridiculous. But he kind of looked down and gave me a little nod when I let him go, and then boom, I got catapulted. I got double stomped through a table that match too. That hurt.
Yeah, I can imagine. And those chops.
Oh my God. Oh, there are no words for him.
No, I can agree with that one. And with Country Jack, obviously, we brought up the PWX tag team titles. Talk a little bit about winning those titles in a four-way contest.
Let me tell you what we did in that four-way. We let everybody else fight each other, and then when the opportunity was right, I went there and pinned somebody.
Hey, that's a smart thing to do. Exactly.
That's smart. Why wouldn't you? And these other guys are just, they got no beef with each other, but they're tearing each other apart. So that four-way match, I let them beat the fool out of each other and then got in there at the right moment and got the pin. Simple as that. And now we're the tag team champions. And when you're the champions, you get paid more. So now we're getting paid more. So that's up with that.
Very, very true with that. We ever going to see the return of Luke Gallows to Country Jack?
You never know. Papa Luke is always right around the corner, and you never know when you'll see him again. So don't count him out yet, but I can't. I don't want to say too much.
You heard it right here. Look out for Papa Luke as we move on to the Monster Mafia. You guys got to work with them at All-Star Extravaganza. They're good friends of the show, so I got to ask what you think about them.
Monster Mafia? I think they're great guys. I think they're awesome. Obviously, I haven't seen entirely too much of their work because we don't work in the same circles.
Yep.
They're obviously in Canada and I'm down here. So we don't work in the same circles, and I don't know their work as well as I know the people around this area. But what I do know about them, I think they're great. They're phenomenal. They've got some great tag stuff, and they're great personalities and they're great people. Can't say anything bad about them. I don't know if you want me to, but I can't.
No, that's not what I was looking for. That's for sure, man. That's awesome to hear. Talk a little bit about being involved in the Young Lions Cup as well, man. You've had one hell of a year.
Yeah, man, did Young Lions Cup this year. That was pretty fun, and I got to meet a lot of people who I had never really shared a locker room with because I've never worked with a lot of the, Wrestling Is or Chikara guys because, I've never done a lot of stuff up northeast. And that was cool. I wrestled the Proletariat Boar of Moldova. so that should give you a sense of how the match went.
Yeah.
Really fun, though. A small, intimate crowd, which is always good to bring you back to your roots and let you interact with people and not just wrestle. And it was fun, man. I didn't win, but you can't win them all. So it was a good time.
Fair enough, man. You got the chance to work with somebody who doesn't get in the ring as much, and somebody we just had on the show just a little while ago, and Steve Carino. Talk a little bit about working with Steve Carino.
Man, you did do your research. I wrestled Steve Carino down at VCW in Norfolk, Virginia, several months ago, and let me tell you, I hate Steve Carino. Him and BJ have this huge thing, and I don't want to get into all the details, but BJ has told me all about it. And I hate him. I hate his guts. But getting to wrestle him was if I step back from that a little bit and think, I'll get to wrestle Steve Carino, it's pretty cool. We had a great match, and it might even be up on YouTube. I don't know. I can't confirm that, but it goes before I saw something about it. I don't know.
I'll definitely repost it if we see it for sure.
Absolutely.
And another thing, you got to work with C.W. Anderson, ECW legend. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I wrestled CW a few times this year. Let's see, I don't remember the first place. I think it was maybe in Omega. I wrestled him the first time, and he kind of hooked me up with VCW. And I got to do a tag match against him there in VCW, and wrestled him singles a couple times in Omega maybe. He's a cool dude, man, and I got to see him. He proposed to his wife-to-be at the VCW show before the show, too. And, I was there for that, so it was kind of cool. Really cool to, meet people you heard of and saw when you were a kid, and now they're, your peers. It's really weird in a way, but it's really cool.
Do you ever just step back and look like, what the heck? This is crazy.
All the time, like every weekend, when I finally get that final stretch home, you know what I mean? You're flying and things like that, or if you're driving or whatever and you got a carload of people. But, that final stretch home when I'm all by myself, and I kind of think, back on everything that happened, I'm like, man, I can't believe this is my life. This is so ridiculous, and that I'm actually living this. I'm not just thinking about it. Man, every day is a blessing, and everything in this business has been a blessing to me. I've made it 1,000 times further than I ever thought I would. So I don't take anything for granted. Enjoy every minute of it.
It's always awesome to hear, man. We've seen how far you've come in the past year, and it's honestly been an honor to just watch and see how awesome you've become in the professional wrestling ring. So congratulations on that, man, and everything you've been doing lately. If there's any plugs you want to throw out there, whether it be social media, whether it be upcoming dates, anything you want to get out there to your fans, feel free to do it, man.
Absolutely. I want to put out a plug for BJ Whitmer because he's the best wrestler on the planet. I want to put out a plug for Jimmy Jacobs because he's also the best wrestler on the planet. He's also the best mind in the whole business.
100% agree there.
Yeah, thank you. Firsthand. I want to put out a plug to SNS Nutrition out of Danville, Virginia, who just hooked me up with some awesome pre-workout today. It was literally the best pre-workout I've ever had. And they're 30 miles from my house. So look them up if you have time. And my Twitter account is @TheAdamPage. I apologize for the I know it sounds really arrogant, I guess. But
Not exactly sure what happened with the recording, ladies and gentlemen, but unfortunately our interview with Adam Page got cut short. At least it was towards the ending, so you guys didn't miss out on too much of the interview. But thanks to Adam Page once again for the time, and check him out this Sunday night, Terminal 5, live on pay-per-view as he takes on Roderick Strong at Ring of Honor's Final Battle.